Hey there! Endings with bishops of opposite color are very often quite boring, but not today. Whenever we have bishops of opposite color, the defending side has a lot of resources because they can easily stop one or sometimes even two passed pawns. But as we'll see in this game, the side who is pressing also has another very interesting resource, which is to give material, even a lot of material, in order to create very strong passed pawns. So here we have a position from a game between Alexander Kotov, who was a very strong player and a well-known author, and former world champion Mikhail Botvinnik. So we're taking at the position from black side, and it is black to play. So black has an extra pawn, black should be the one pressing here, black even has the option to take a pawn straight away. So the position looks pleasant for black, but now it's a matter of whether black can win or not. So let's evaluate the first alternative that comes to mind, which is to grab a pawn. So here black can take a pawn, but in this case now white can take this very strong pawn on b3, and we get less material on the board, and black's position might look attractive, but it is not enough to win the game. For example, if black takes another pawn, so here black has two extra pawns, but after the move king to c3, we see how now white is going to have a fortress, white is going to stop black's pawns. Thanks to this idea of having a bishop of opposite color, white has a dark square bishop, and black can easily control the advance of this pawn to d4. For example, after king to e3, planning to go d4, white could play the move bishop to f6, and now white is controlling the advance of this pawn, and this pawn on g6 is also being controlled, so black doesn't have any way to progress in this position, and the game should normally end in a draw. So instead of taking the pawn e3, here black played this very interesting move, bishop to e6. Black is still pressing for an advantage, inviting white to go wrong. This is a very important idea in endings when we have an advantage, and we see a forcing line that leads to a draw. We can still play on without forcing the position, so here black played the move bishop to e6. And in this position, white played the move bishop to c5. If we look at captures first, white had this option to take the pawn on b3, but here after the move d4, white is giving a check with the bishop on e6, and the idea is that black will capture on e3. For example, after king to c2, black captures on e3, and this pawn on e3 is more advanced, and it is very well supported by the king on f3. So in this particular position, black gets an improved version. For example, after the move king to d1, planning to go to e1 to stop the pawn, black might play the move king to f2, now e2 is a big threat. Here white might try bishop to c5, pinning the pawn, but after a move like bishop to b3 or bishop to d4, we give a check, we bring white's king to a war square, and now black continue with the move king to e2, and now black has an improved version because black has this regular threat of either pushing the pawn or going for this pawn f4, and white's king is not able to stop this pawn as it happened in the other line. So after bishop to e6, here white played the very natural bishop to c5, which as we'll see will lose the game, but it was very hard to see black's continuation. Just want to mention that the move king to d2 was a better try, defending the pawn e3 and trying to hold the position. But here after the move bishop to c5, here black played this very brilliant move that we're going to try to understand what are the ideas behind it. So here black played this move g5, which is again a very amazing move because it seems to be hanging a pawn in two ways. But let's start with the simple move, which is taking with the h-pawn. Here we see that now black has this very powerful passed pawn on the h-file, which is just going to advance and white is not going to be able to stop it. So this line is fairly easy. So here black gets two very powerful passed pawns and white is unable to stop one of them. But the other point is what would happen after f takes g5, which was played in the game. Here black has an idea to either take on h4 or to push g4, so this pawn has to be taken. And after f takes g5, now we see that black simply gave this pawn in order to attack this pawn h4 and capture it, because after a move like king to g3, white will not have the move bishop to e7 defending this pawn h4. So the whole idea behind this move g5 is to capture the pawn h4 and to create a very strong passed pawn on the h-file. Before playing the move king to g3, black played another very nice move, d4, sacrificing another pawn, and after pawn takes, now black played the move king to g3, and we get this position on which black is temporarily a pawn down, but black is simply having a winning position because black is gonna get very strong pass pawns. So here the game continued bishop to a3, and after king takes. In the game, white continued with the move king to d3. If white plays g6, this pawn is going to be controlled very easily by the bishop on e6, and actually the bishop on e6 is controlling both pawns. So white's pawns are actually not that strong, whereas black's pawns, after a move like king to g3, are extremely powerful. This pawn is gonna cost white material, and this pawn on b3 is well defended. So after king takes h4, here white tried to move king to d3 in order to bring the king towards the king side, but after king takes g5, king to e4, black simply pushed the pass pawn, h4, and after king to f3 and bishop to d5, here white resigned. There's simply no way to control the two pawns. As a rule of thumb, when having endings with bishops of opposite color, the farther the pass pawns are, the better. So here these two pawns are far away, so it is very hard for white to control them. Unless they are connected, this rule is normally very useful, because connected pawns are also very strong, but here it is quite good to have a pawn on h4 and b3, as opposed to having a pawn on h4 and e4, for example. But here we can easily see how these pawns are very hard to stop, and here white resigned because this pawn is just going to advance. There's also another important detail, that the bishop controls the promotion square, so black can support its advance and control the promotion square. But in any case, if I go back to the critical moment of the game, this idea of g5 might look ridiculous at first sight, but the whole idea is to create a very strong pass pawn on the h-file, and this is actually quite an important principle in endings. So if you want to know more about chess endings, I have a video where I cover all the most important ideas about endings in 15 minutes. I hope that you enjoyed the video. Please give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This will help my channel a lot to reach more people. In any case, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.